Hi and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. So today's video is very much inspired by something that's pretty much of the moment. It was only released in this last couple of weeks. I received mine this week, and here we can see it's the UHQR pressing of Bill Evans' Waltz for Debby. Now, I know this has recently been issued on an OJC cut, which I would be interested to hear, to be honest, but I haven't heard that. So, you know, for people who are sort of vinyl only on a tight budget, I would hazard a guess that's probably a really good buy, but I don't absolutely know. And the reason I bought this one, well, it was just to find out how close it gets to my reference. And my reference, which I bought some good long time ago, and I will be talking about and comparing it to this. And cut to the chase, this doesn't beat my reference, okay? So this is not the best version of Waltz for Debby you can currently get. Although I would say it's the best version you can get on vinyl, or ever have been able to get on vinyl. Okay, so what the heck am I talking about? What the heck I'm talking about is this. And this is the Tape Project TP008 Waltz for Debby. Now this I bought, gosh, years ago, maybe as much as 10 years ago, and this is a sort of one-to-one copy from the original masters. It says here, Tape Project's albums always start with the original analog session tapes, no copies or dubs. From these we make our running masters on 1-inch 2-track analog. The 1-inch running masters are copied in real time directly to a bank of Ampex ATR 100 recorders. In this case, we started with the original master tape, played directly on one of our 1/4-inch ATR 100s to our 1-inch recorder. It goes on and on and on, but basically these are copies of the original analog master. And if you can see what we get in here, this is reel 1, side 1, and reel 2 for side 2. So these are, you know, this is how the masters for the album would be, they are, you know. And just quickly show you, there's another piece of, kind of tape care information which you get with these. Now let me just pop all this away, because that's not really the subject of today's video, but this is the reason that I don't have another copy of Waltz for Debby on vinyl to compare the UHQR to, because when I first got this tape, I mean, it does annihilate everything else you've ever heard. And consequently, there was no need to keep my pressings. I didn't have an original first press. It was just a regular reissue, but there was no need to keep it once I got this. So I will come back to this a little later, but this is the reference, okay, that I'm using to discuss this. And what I'm going to try and tell you is how close this gets. And I'll kind of take you on a little story of my experience with it as well. But just first of all, I just want to run through what you get. For anyone who hasn't already got one of these Analogue Productions UHQRs, for starters, you see it comes in a really nice kind of old school library type kind of case. You slide this out, and I'll go through what you get inside. So we've got a bit of a sort of a flyer for other Analogue Productions titles. Now, this is quite sort of poignant and on point for me, because This here is the Pablo series that they're talking about. And I do have, I mean, it may be the next one, it may be the one after. But I've got, well, I subscribe to this series. I've talked about Pablo before now. And they are stunning, staggering recordings. And I will be talking about doing a review of these, okay? But it's, anyway, that's what you get. A flyer, what else? A technical kind of specification kind of sheet talking about the UHQR, you know, and why they're so good. And it's, you know, it's very interesting reading. And it has to be said, I think, you know, arguably QRP can be equalled. QRP is Analogue Productions, in a way, it's Analogue Productions' in-house record pressing plant. They're both owned by Chad Kassem, and that's QRP record pressing plant, Analogue Productions, the label, and Acoustic Sounds, which is a retail operation. So they're all under his banner, so to speak. Before I get to this, I just want to find, there should be one other. Oh, I'll get to it when we get to it. Anyway, we also get this beautiful booklet, Bill Evans at the Village Vanguard, with some lovely pictures and a nice bit of text. Really, really, really nice. And what I always like to see, pictures of the original master tapes. So, you know, really, really nice little booklet. Okay. Here's a reproduction of the original cover. It is numbered. These are all numbered issues. It's in a beautiful sort of satin matte finish. I don't have the original, so I don't think it was a gatefold, but here we are as a gatefold with some of the, you know, some beautiful pictures again. It's in really nice thick card. It's just exquisite quality. Oh, there we go. That was the last thing. That was the bit I was looking for. So here's the, there's a limited run of 5,000 of these. And this is just a little sort of certificate to say, you know, what your number is. And then last but by no means least, you get the 2 LPs provided in these beautiful QRP inner sleeves, which are the same as a couple of other high quality labels used. And uniquely pressed on Clarity vinyl, which is, I would say, my favourite vinyl formulation. MoFi, a competitor, have their top vinyl formulation is called Super Vinyl, which I think is very, very similar to what Impex Records use as their top vinyl formula. But I have slight issues with both of those. In terms of their likelihood to be warped, and they don't like to be unwarped, if you see what I mean. They don't like to be flattened, in my experience. These are fine, regular vinyl's fine, but anyway, it's chosen for its absolute pure, beautiful sound quality. And of course, this is recorded at 45 RPM, or cut at 45 RPM. So you get, you know, here we are, side 1, My Foolish Heart, Waltz for Debby. Side 2, Detour Ahead. Put these away. Side 3, My Romance. And then side 4, Some Other Time and Milestones. One of the great things about this 45 RPM sort of increases the dynamic range. It increases the sort of the detail, the texture, the timbral accuracy, the timing. By printing that on 4 sides rather than 2 sides, you manage to keep away from the very inner grooves, so it cuts down on groove distortion, tracking error as well. So it's an all-round good thing to do, as I've discussed many a time in my in other reviews of like the Atlantic 75 series, for instance. and it makes, you know, it's good logical sense why it makes an improvement. Anyway, I'll keep this cover out while I just talk about the this recording and the quality of it. So what does this sound like? As I said, I've had this tape for quite a long time, many years. I think probably at least 10 years. And you know, quite a long time ago, I got rid of my vinyl copy because it just sounded awful in comparison. So the first thing is, when this arrived, I did have a little refresher and play the tape. And as is normal, I cleaned this using my kind of, you know, preferred methods. And I will run through that in a separate video. I'll do a follow-up record cleaning video coming along quite soon. I've done a whole series of these before, which if you check through my my videos on the channel, you'll see. But I gave this a good clean with Clear Audio, Pure Groove, then a rinse with distilled water, ethanol, and Ilfitol. Both of these on the Loricraft. And then actually 3 cleans on the degritter with different fluids. I'll come round to that later on. And then I played it, and my first impression was actually pretty poor, to be perfectly honest. It's not to say it sounded awful, but you know, I'd come from listening to the tape, and the bass sounded a little bit diffuse and ill-defined. It wasn't exactly where the bass should be in the soundstage, which is hard left. And the piano sounded a little bit glassy. So I was sort of like, oh dear, I mean, I'm a bit disappointed with this, and you know, it really didn't sort of stand up well. And I was kind of, you know, facing the prospect of having to do a negative review, which I don't like doing. I've done a few, and I will do negative reviews if they're ultimately warranted. But something was kind of nagging at me. And the other interesting thing is having a tape. When you get a tape and you've got tape machines, and I was playing this back on my Studer A812. I've also got a Studer A80 master recorder. But when you're playing back a tape on a machine like that, you actually get to hear the reality of how things really are. That gives you the ability to not just hear, that doesn't sound quite as good, but how, where, and why something doesn't sound quite so good. And that was kind of interesting because, like I said, the bass, so we're talking the left channel here, was a little bit diffuse, and it was a little bit diffuse at lower frequencies. So as the Scott LaFaro was playing the upper notes, the higher frequency notes on the bass, you know, in reality, sort of down here, if you like, it was well pitched, and it was a good kind of solid image, just, you know, just maybe on the right hand edge of the left hand speaker, so to speak. And as he went down in frequency, or sort of up on the fretboard, it became more diffuse and sort of warmer and fuller and more less defined. You know, because of the nature of having the tape, it kind of gave me a clue as to what was going on, and I made a very subtle change to the azimuth of the cartridge by maybe 1/10 of a degree, and I gave the record another 2 more cleans in the degritter. Now, before doing that, it was a case of, yeah, you could listen to this and it sounded nice. Then you go to the tape and it wiped the floor with it, and there was no feeling of wanting to go back and ever hear the vinyl again. That's kind of how I felt before. Having gone through and just, you know, really dialing it in and getting this absolutely scrupulously clean, that's no longer the case. So that's where we're at now, and that's what I kind of want to describe. So first of all, I'm just going to sort of run through my very basic notes and talk about Waltz for Debby, the event, the recording. So It was recorded on the 25th of June in 1961 at the Village Vanguard in New York City. And as many of you know, very, very tragically, the bassist, Scott LaFaro, was killed, I think, in a car accident around 2 weeks after the recording date, so before the album was released. And I think they did a run of 4 or 5 nights at the Village Vanguard. And they subsequently released another album, which I will mention later on in this video, Sunday at the Village Vanguard, which is kind of a follow-up. And really the two go together. They're different tunes, but they're from the same sort of set, so to speak. And you can really view the two records almost like a double album, if you like. And I will get more into that detail later. But basically, this was Bill Evans, Scott LaFaro, and Paul. I know how you pronounce his name, Paul Motion, playing kind of beautiful, smooth, cool, very, very, very accessible jazz. Very, very, very accessible, very easy listening. And what it really, really, really majors on, and I mean really, really majors on, is the sort of the interplay between the musicians. And again, now this is something that I got post that absolute final kind of tweaking and setting up of this record. And you can tell this from this record. And you can kind of, I'll just show you here. I did a little diagram. I don't know if you can see this. So this is the listener. That's the front of the stage. And I'm sort of guesstimating from what I'm hearing how far I am from the stage and where the musicians are on the stage. So basically, hard right-hand channel, you've got the piano and right in the foreground. Hard left-hand channel, but a little back from the foreground, a little further back than the piano kind of thing. You've got the bass, and then sort of tucked in just inside the bass, but further back again, you've got the drums. And I note here higher, and there's no question that the drums are on a pedestal or a drum riser, and you can kind of hear that in the soundstage, and that's how vivid the soundstage and the recording, and how live and how real this is. And also all the way through it, you've got sort of the sort of chinking of glasses and just very, very light chit chatter of the people in the club. Just sort of just being at this gig. It is so live. I think some people find that slightly irritating. I absolutely love it because it makes you feel more and more and more there. Now, from the beginning, from the first track, My Foolish Heart, I mean, it is just, this record is absolutely beautiful. There is incredible super low level detail, and you absolutely feel the ambience, the entire space of where you are. It's rounded, it's colourful, it's sort of, it's almost technicolor. There's a beautiful colour to the piano. It's not grey and dry in any kind of digital kind of way. There's nothing harsh. There's a slight glare to the piano at times, just the very, very slightest. The drums are soft and shimmery. And I absolutely need to sort of give full credit. I mean, you need to give full credit to the entire band here. But the interplay between Evans and LaFaro on piano and bass is honestly like they've got a sixth sense. Sort of, they'll play, sort of Bill will hit a key, and then LaFaro will play that note maybe just a fraction of a second after, and then it'll reply with LaFaro playing the next note and Evans playing his note just a fraction of a second after, but it's always the exactly right fraction. And it's not just like one's leading and the other's following. It's like an interplay. It's almost like a boogie, a sort of a shuffling kind of thing going between them. And the drumming is just so, it shimmers, and it's just sort of, there's the hi-hat and the snare and brush drums, and it's just sort of shimmering in the background. But then when he comes in with a little sort of riff, it is just it's vivid and there, and rolls across the soundstage vividly in absolute colour and clarity, and that tonal shading, the dynamic shading, the kind of the feel, the intuition between the players on this is just exquisite, absolutely exquisite. It is as good as, the music is the music. That's what the music of this is. But in terms of the performance of that music, this is as good as any band has ever performed any piece of music, I would say. It's just, it's perfect in its natural realism and organic feel and flow. It's just amazing. Anyway, you sort of, My Foolish Heart. It's beautiful. What is it? It's 4:56. It's, call it 5 minutes long. It's that just the interplay between it's captivating, but it's so easy listening. It really, really, really is. The bass notes go deep. The drums are soft and shimmery. The piano and it's not bright, but it's colourful and glossy, if you like. It's right in the foreground. The bass is in the foreground as well, but very, very slightly back. And some people hate this sort of left-right stereo thing. I actually really like it, especially on pieces of music like this, because you've absolutely got a conversation between two elements, with the drums, slightly further back, and as I say, slightly higher up on the pedestal, on the drum plinth pedestal, whatever you call it. So it sort of fills across, and it is almost like the background. But the way they play together, it enhances it. I mean, it really does enhance it, having the left and the right. And I can't, some jazz, mono jazz, I really prefer in mono. This is just, it is made for stereo, and it's beautifully portrayed, and it is a very much left-right stereo. Drums bass hard left, piano hard right, and drums not exactly hard left, but definitely left, but back and higher too. It's perfect. Anyway, let me get on to Waltz for Debby, which is the second half of side one of the UHQR. And again, it's just like the bounce of this track, the sort of the rhythmic and dynamic bounce between the two is just amazing. And I've written in the notes here, because on the first listen, before it was, I'd absolutely cleaned it and set that, I mean, to get a record which can give you the feedback that you'll go and make that minutest little tweak, as I say, about 1/10 of a degree to the azimuth. It's actually telling you something about how bloody good that record is. And as I said, I'll describe what I was hearing that made me do that. So first of all, the bass, without making that tweak, the bass was softer. It wasn't horrible in any way, shape or form, but it was softer than the piano, right? But it was softer at the lower end of the frequency. So you kind of intuitively knew that something was going on in the left channel and at the lower frequency of the left channel. And when you've got some sort of intuitive knowledge that that's something there, it's like, well, it's got to be anti-skating or azimuth. Sixth Sense led me to believe it was the azimuth, and I made that tiny adjustment, and that was it. But it's the vast majority of records are so damned opaque, you wouldn't have a hope in hell of making that fine adjustment. You really wouldn't. Having the tape, which is exemplary, that is one of the things that having sort of reel-to-reel master replay, when you've got that and you can put that up against the record, it really does aid you in getting the best out of the record. And that's something I've often said to people who sort of question the value of tape, because it is much more expensive, obviously, but there we go. Anyway, so with those adjustments made, you really could feel like you could reach out and touch the bass, and I sat there with my wife and we were talking about this, and the fact that Scott LaFaro died, just a matter of days after this recording, certainly before this recording was published, and you're so vividly hearing him there, it's really moving. I mean, it brings tears to the eyes, because you are, in playing this, you are experiencing something. You're travelling back in time, but you're travelling back in time to someone who's dead. And I mean, I think the whole band's probably passed away now, but it's that's something about the power of recorded music, and the more exquisitely and perfectly reproduced that music is, the more vividly you can kind of see and feel and experience the energy of that person and the energy of being in that space. And again, it's something about this album. It's because of the way it's recorded, because of all that, the chit chat and the noise of people rustling around and putting down cutlery and picking up glasses and the like. It's an incredible transporting kind of experience that you feel you are in the Village Vanguard on, forgive me for checking the date, in the Village Vanguard on the 25th of June 1961. So it's in the presence, listening to the Bill Evans trio with Scott LaFaro, who I'm kind of guessing the next night or the last night of the gig, which I think was a Sunday night, was probably his last performance. I don't know, but it's poignant and it's moving, and it really is. It's like having a TARDIS, this is $150. It's not cheap, it is not cheap for a vinyl record. And the tape is $500. That's not cheap for a piece of recorded music, but it's, I think both of these are actually really cheap for what you get, okay? Really cheap for what you get, because it is an absolute time travel machine, okay? Anyway, we move on. Side 2, Detour Ahead. Again, as that opens, there's even more of the sort of audience thing caught, and it's just amazing, and particularly in this track, that sort of conversation, if you like, between the bass and the piano is just, it's captivating, you really get a sense of that sort of sixth sense telepathic kind of interaction between all three of them, without any question, between all three of them, but the most vividly kind of thrust into your face, partly because of where they are in the soundstage, but it's like Scott LaFaro hits a sort of a bass note, and just at the exact nanosecond same time, Paul Motion just sort of hits his drum, or the next instant it'll be Bill Evans hits the piano key at exactly the same time. But it's not just LaFaro leading and the others following. Absolutely not. It'll be just as much of the time it'll be Evans leading and the others following, it's a trading places in the, it is a conversation. It is an interactive sort of sparring contest, or it's not really a sparring contest. It's like a coming together for a universal joint magnificence, which can only be from having three things. It's like if you've got a 6-cylinder engine and you've got three of the, or a 3-cylinder engine, let's say, easier to describe. If the timing of those isn't absolutely spot on, you get a really lumpy response, very uneven power. It's unpleasant. When you get the timing absolutely bang on, it just purrs like a, you know what I mean about that with that timing, and that's what I kind of mean when I talk about this, between the timing between them. They are just absolutely in sync and going, and that is something that better hi-fi systems will reproduce that much better than lesser hi-fi systems, and better pressings and even better recordings will reproduce that better than others. It's all to do with phase response and impulse response and these kind of things, and the setup of your cartridge and all that kind of stuff. It's all paramount. Anyway, let me get on to, let me just finish, we've finished sides 1 and 2, so we go on to side 3, My Romance. And again on here, it's just, I think on this, it's one piece of music, 7 minutes long, just over, takes up the entire side. It's very, very, very lyrical, particularly Bill Evans is playing here. It's absolutely, the sort of the cadences, the lyricism. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's stunning, and again, you've got that very, very, very well, almost holographic, I would say, image of piano, bass, and drum, if you like. Okay, as I'm looking at it, so drum at the back, slightly higher up, off to the left slightly. Bass in front of the drum, lower down, and more forward, and then the piano, hard right and very forward. And you're just captivated by that kind of intense togetherness, almost, harmony. It's beautiful. Anyway, let me go on to side 4. We've got 2 tracks on side 4. We've got Some Other Time, and then it ends with Milestones, their take of Miles Davis sort of classic. And again, it's that bass, piano, drum, just achingly beautiful, shimmery. I mean, the most of the time the drum is just sort of shimmering in the background, and it's perfectly in time, and that's something that's kind of quite hard to visualize when it's just sort of like sort of hi-hats and brushes and the like, just sort of shimmering almost, but utterly in time. And then with the occasional sort of drum roll, so to speak, for want of a better technical term. It is just absolutely incredible, but the playing, the tonality, the feeling, the expression on the other instruments, it's just awesome. So, I mean, you can pick up, I haven't heard it, and I am kind of tempted to buy it. I'd be interested, leave me a comment in the comments if you want me to. Because I noticed it is back in stock at Acoustic Sounds, and I think it only costs like $40 odd, so it's not very much money for the OJC, which is cut by Kevin Gray at Coherent, who also cut this, I believe. They're going to be very similar, but it's 33 rather than 45. I don't think there's any question this is going to be better, but when the OJC first came out, I just thought, it's not an awful lot of money, but it's I've heard so many, I've heard other OJCs, they're bloody brilliant, but this is exceptional, and I will get onto that in a minute. But this did inspire me because I just wanted to hear how close it gets, because I fully appreciate most people don't have the machines, etc., to replay tapes like this tape project release. Having bought this, having cleaned it up, used it as a tool to absolutely fine-tune my turntable setup, I have to tell you, you can go from playing the tape to playing this, and it doesn't sound as good, but it doesn't disappoint, okay? It's that close. Yeah, you can hear where the tape is better, and the tape is better. And I think probably at this point it's worth mentioning just where that tape is better. So in the absolute timing between the instruments, between the musicians, in the spaces between, you know, each and every note, and in the dynamic range, in the microdynamics, and the timbral accuracy, the tape is better. It always will be, because at the end of the day, this has been cut from the tape, and it's cutting, it's pressing, and everything is, I firmly believe, probably unequaled in vinyl LP music reproduction. Absolutely unequaled. But the tape is always going to sound better. Just as it was with the White Stripes Elephant, where we had basically the one thing produced from the other, or for instance the John Coltrane Love Supreme. You know, I've got several instances where I've got, you know, a UHQR or you know, or similar kind of super vinyl thing, and I've got a tape. The tape's always going to sound better. There's no question about that. But this becomes extremely close, extremely close. It's not embarrassed by the tape. It really isn't. But the tape is better, and there's just a layer of clarity. The air on the tape is clearer, if you like. The air on the vinyl is very slightly warmer, very slightly more opaque. And the you know, everything is just very slightly softened. But in terms of every other vinyl LP, I've heard of this, you know, and I haven't heard the OJC, like I said, but they're cut by the same guy, Kevin Gray, who I think is an absolute genius of cutting. And you know, he's cut this one at 45, he's cut the other one at 33. So everything else considered, this is going to sound better by, you know, by a perfectly understandable but tangible margin, because, you know, with the 45 RPM record, the groove is moving quicker. It's like in digital, you know, it's about high def versus standard def, simple as that. Okay, so, you know, this is stunning. Utterly recommended. I did just think I'd buy it, probably do the video and then sell it on. I'm not entirely certain that I will. Oh, hello, there's my cat Toby. Excuse me. Anyway, excuse Toby. So yeah, this is just absolutely stunning. I cannot recommend it enough. It's a beautiful album, and this is a staggeringly good issue of it. Staggeringly good. And I will just finally get back to this tape. Now, you know, tapes, as I've talked about before, I don't talk about them too much, but as I've talked about them before, you know, there is really no question they are the ultimate. They are ultimately what all these fantastic LP recordings are made from. And, you know, pretty much anything when did digital recording come in? Sort of early to mid 90s, really. I think in sort of, it's when it really kind of took over. So pretty much anything kind of recorded before then, the ultimate source is a tape. So for anything where the tape is available, it's going to be almost certainly, unless they screw it up, it's going to be the best. Now, $500 for this, I think, frankly, for what you get, is an absolute steal. You know, it's I've had this 10 years. It sounds absolutely phenomenal. I think in real terms, if you keep your machines well maintained, tapes don't wear out. You know, I mean, this is cut from, you know, the master tape, which is currently, well, let me think, 61 to now. So what? 63 years old. So the master tape's 63 years old and it still sounds phenomenal. This copy was probably made from the master, I'm not sure when this was released, but probably around 20 years ago. And it sounds phenomenal. Now, also, I will mention this because quite interestingly, there is a fourth version of this of note from Hemiolia. They have actually released Waltz for Debby. I haven't got it. I haven't heard it. Hemiolia tapes are around 800, 850, something like that. So quite a bit more expensive again. And I was chatting to Claudio from Hemiolia about it, and he said he's got this, and he said, well, he thinks that they've done a better job, and that's why they did it. I'd love to have a listen to that tape. I'm not going to shell out 800 euros to buy it just to find out. If I can blag a loan of a copy, I would be very interested. And at that point, maybe I'd come back and compare. But for me, you know, a well-made one-to-one master copy, which is what this is, I think is as good as it's going to get. So I'm more than happy with this one on this occasion. Okay, and I think on that note, I will say I will wrap up. I did just want to follow up with what I plan on doing very soon, if not next, it may be next. But of course, this Waltz for Debby UHQR was released at the same time as this. As I mentioned earlier, this is the companion piece, Sunday at the Village Vanguard. So, you know, I haven't opened it yet. I will do, and I don't have a master tape copy of this because there hasn't been one released. But what I have got is this, which is the MoFi Ultra Disc One Step. But out of interest, this is the only MoFi One Step Ultra Disc that was all analog. So this doesn't include the infamous DSD step. So, I mean, I haven't played this for probably a couple of years, to be honest. I played it when I got it, but I haven't played it since. And this one's still sealed. So I will be, you know, probably this weekend, to be honest, opening this up, and I'll give them both a real thorough clean. I'll give them both the same cleaning regime and make a comparison. And I think that will be more than likely the next video, although I've got a few other interesting sort of A-B, original versus current reissues and things to be doing. And as I also mentioned, I'm kind of itching to do the Pablo series because I've got quite a few of those now, and I've got some that I have originals of, and well, you know, spoiler alert, hell, I'm not really into that. They sound amazing. So I'm not entirely certain which order they'll be, but those are things to look out for in coming videos. So again, finally, just to wrap up, UHQR, Analogue Productions, Waltz for Debby, the Bill Evans trio. It is absolutely beautiful, captivatingly beautiful. Well done, Chad. Keep them rolling. If you haven't done already, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel immensely. And I will see you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Bye.